It started like the simplest kind of a story. One quiet afternoon. One familiar cat returning home. And one small straw following closely behind. The family thought it was just another lost kitten. Scared, hungry, and looking for safety. They brought it inside. They warmed it. They planned to help it. But within hours, one sentence from a veterinarian would stop the room cold. Because the animal they thought they had rescued wasn't a kitten at all. And loving it their own way could destroy its future forever. The first thing Emily noticed was the silence. It wasn't a dramatic silence. No thunder, no ominous music. No sense that anything was about to change. Just a small, ordinary absence. The missing sound of paws on hardwood. The familiar scrap at the back door. The irritated little meow that usually announced Milo's return like it was reporting for duty. Milo was never quiet for long. It was an 8-year-old porch cat with the confidence of a landlord and the attitude of someone who believed the house existed for his comfort. A supervised bird through the kitchen window. A gat dogs from the poor rail. It treated every passing squirrel like a personal insult. So when lunchtime came and Milo didn't appear, Emily felt the smallest pinch of worry. At first, she dismissed it. It had gotten distracted before, rolling in dust, stalking leaves, patrolling fences as if the neighborhood needed his protection. Emily poured a small scoop of kibble into his bowl, set it on the mat by the back door, and called his name. Milo. Nothing. She called again, louder this time. Still nothing. Emily wiped her hands on a dish towel and stepped onto the porch. The air was mild, late spring warm, carrying the smell of damp soil and fresh cut grass. Their yard sloped gently behind the house, bordered by a rough line of pines and sweet gum trees. Beyond that tree line was a patchwork of woods and fields, land that belonged to no one I knew well. The kind of land that still kept secrets. Milo, she called again, shading her eyes with her hand. That was when she saw movement near the garden. Milo emerged first, strolling out like someone who had been busy with important work. His tail was sleek, whiskers forward, posture relaxed. It looked like he expected applause for showing up. Emily exhaled, half amused, half annoyed. But then she saw the second shape behind him. Small, low to the ground, moving hesitantly, like it was sure the world was safe enough to cross. It clung to Milo's path as if the white cat in front of it was the only thing keeping the air from hurting. At first glance, Emily thought it was a kitten. It had the general idea of one, 4 legs, 4 ears, a teeny face. But everything about it felt slightly wrong. Not wrong in a monstrous way. Wrong in a quiet, unsettling way that made her eyes narrow without her meaning to. Its coat wasn't a simple tabby pattern. It was mottled with dusky spots and fan stripes like leaves shadow. Its ears looked too large for its head. And its tail. Emily blinked on trying to make sense of it. The tail was short, not just shorter than Milo's. Short in a way that looked unfinished, like a little brush instead of a long whip. The small animal stepped into the open garden path and froze. Its body compressed, muscles tight as wire, ready to bolt. Its eyes, wide and bare, too serious for something that small, looked onto Emily with a fear so honest it didn't feel like aggression. It felt like a confession. Please don't make me go back. Milo hopped onto the low stone wall that ate the flower bed. It sat like a judge, staring at the newcomer as if it was presenting evidence. Then he lifted one paw. Not to strike, Milo wasn't cruel, but as a warning. This is my yard. You are suspicious. The little animal flinched. It actually flinched. Emily's chest tightened. It was the flinch of a spoiled pet expecting a playful swat. It was the flinch of something that had learned the world called head. Behind Emily's calm expression, her mind began to move quickly. Storms last week. Hard rain. Wind that snapped branches. Thunder that shook the windows. She pictured a disturbed then somewhere into the woods. A motor chased off. A litter scattered. A baby wandering until hunger became stronger than fear. The animal made a sound. Thin. Strange. Not quite a meow. More like a question it was afraid to ask. Emily took a slow step forward. Then another, keeping her voice soft. Hey there, she said. Hey, sweetheart. The animal bobbled backward, trying to retreat, but its legs looked shaky. Not injured, just weak, like hunger had hollowed it out from the inside. It searched for a place to hide. There was nowhere. It pressed itself against the porch step, trembling, trying to become smaller than it already was. Emily didn't think into the moments. She acted. She went back inside, grabbed a thick towel and a shallow cardboard box from the pantry, and returned to the porch as calmly as I could. Her hands moved carefully, like she was handling something that could break. She placed the box on its side with the towel folded inside, creating a dark little cave. Then she crouched, holding the towel between her hands like a shield. "It's okay," she murmured. She was not sure if she was speaking to the animal or to her own wrathing heart. The creature darted forward, then veered, trying to slip past her. When it realized it couldn't, it froze again. Emily lowered the towel over its back with gentle firmness. It fought for a heartbeat, tiny paws scrabbling, a flash of small teeth, but the fight was weak. Fear fueled, not strength fueled. Emily gathered it carefully, feeling how light it was. How fragile. Under the fur, the body was warm but thin, ribs too easy to sense through the towel. The animal made a sharp, ick sound as she lifted it. Then it went still. Not calm, not trusting. Just surrendering to the idea that whatever came next couldn't be worse than what it had already survived. Milo followed her back inside, taut twitching. It didn't look pleased, but it also didn't run away. It watched from a distance like a guard, deciding whether it had brought home a problem or performed a heroic act. Emily placed the small animal into the box and dropped part of the towel over the top, leaving a small opening so it could breathe and see. Instantly, it curled into the corner, trying to disappear. Only its eyes remained visible, bright, fearful, fixed on her. Mark came from the garage a moment later, carrying a bag of patting soil. Stopped when he saw the box on the kitchen floor. "What in the world is that?" he asked. Emily hesitated, the word kitten forming automatically, then catching in her throat. "A kitten," she said anyway, though it didn't sound convincing even to her. "I think Milo brought it in. Or it followed him." Mark crouched carefully, peering into the opening. The tiny face stared back at him, eyes wide and unblinking. Mark's expression softened despite himself. "That poor thing," he said quietly. Their teenage son, Ben, appeared in the doorway like he had been summoned by the word kitten. Their daughter Sophie, home from college for the weekend, came behind him, phone already in her hand, the way young people always did when something unusual happened. "Oh my gosh," Sophie breathed. "It's adorable." Milo made a low, offended sound, like he disliked the idea of adorable being applied to anyone but him. Emily placed her palm against the side of the box, letting the little animal feel steady warmth through cardboard. "We need to get it checked out," she said. "Right now." Mark nodded immediately. "Yeah, no question." Emily stared down at the creature curled in that improvised cave. It didn't cry for attention. It didn't try to climb out. It didn't behave like a kitten who had finally found people. It behaved like something that had finally stopped running, because it didn't have the strength left. And somewhere deep in Emily's chest, beneath the urgency and the compassion, a quiet thought formed, small, uneasy, impossible to ignore. "This might not be what we think it is." She grabbed her keys. Milo watched from the doorway, tal flicking on the, as if he understood they had brought something into their lives that would not be easy to return. Outside, the yard looked ordinary. The goose stood still. The afternoon light was gentle. Nothing about the world looked changed. But Emily had the strange sense that they had just crossed into something they couldn't uncross. And the small animal in the box, silent, trembling, was about to prove it. The drive to the veterinary clinic was quiet. Too quiet. Emily sat in the passenger seat, one hand resting lightly on the cardboard box balanced on her lap. She could feel movement inside it, small, careful shifts, like the animal was trying to rearrange itself without being noticed. Every so often, the box trembled almost imperceptibly, then went still again. Milo rode in the back seat, unusually silent. Stared out the window with rigid focus, ears twitching at sounds only he could hear. He didn't cry or protest the career the way he usually did. He just watched. That's all that been the first real warning. At a red light, Emily lifted the towel slightly and peeked inside. The little animal didn't rush toward the opening. It didn't reach up. It didn't cry. It pressed itself farther into the corner, eyes fixed on her, unblinking. Domestic kittens, Emily knew, were curious even when they were afraid. They reached. They tested. They moved in protest or desperation. This one did none of that. This one is quiet, Mark said, glancing over. Emily nodded. Too quiet. When they arrived at the clinic, the waiting room was full of familiar sounds, dogs panting, a carrier rattling as a cat can plant loudly, the low hum of conversation. The little animal stiffened the moment the door opened. Its breathing changed. Faster. Shallower. Emily felt it through the cardboard. At the front desk, the receptionist smiled automatically. What can we help you with today? We found a kitten, Emily said. The word still felt wrong in her mouth. In the goods bay indoor house. The receptionist's eyes flicked briefly to the box, then back to Emily. Something in her expression shifted. Not alarm, just attention. Okay, she said carefully. We'll have a technician take a look. In the exam room, the veterinarian introduced herself and moved with calm efficiency. She lifted the towel slowly, giving the animal time to adjust to the light. The reaction was immediate. The little body pressed flat against the table. Muscles slacked. No hissing. No swatting. Just complete stillness, like it had defeated that invisibility was its last defense. The vet paused. Emily saw weak, the brief hesitation, the extra second of observation. The vet murmured, not unkindly. She checked hydration. Listened to the chest. Looked closely at the eyes and bows. The animal tolerated it all without protest, without curiosity, without a sound. That's unusual, Sophie said quietly from the corner of the room. For a kitten, Ben added. The vet didn't answer right away. She gently lifted one ear, then the other. Her fingers moved to the tail. She ran a thumb along the coat pattern, following the fan spotting that seemed to grow more defined the longer Emily stared at it. How old do you think it is? Mark asked. The vet exhaled slowly. That's what I'm trying to determine, she said. She straightened and stepped back half a pace, folding her arms, not defensively, but thoughtfully. This little one is very dehydrated, she said. And underweight. Hungry enough that fear hasn't fully overridden instinct yet. Emily nodded. We thought maybe it was separated from its mother. That's possible, the vet said. But there are some things here that don't keep a line up. The room felt smaller. She pointed gently. The ear shape. The coat pattern. And this towel. Emily's stomach tightened. What about the towel? She asked. The vet met her eyes now. Direct. Professional. It's too short for a domestic kitten, she said. And the fur pattern isn't a typical either. Sophie's phone lowered slowly in her hand. So what is it? Ben asked. The vet hesitated. Not long, but long enough. Then she said the sentence that changed the air in the room. This isn't a domestic kitten. Silence felt like something physical. Emily felt it land in her chest before it reached her mind. I'm very confident, the vet continued gently, that what you were brought in is a wild animal. Mark frowned. Wild, like feral. The vet shook her head. Wild as in native wildlife. She glanced on more at the animal on the table, then back at them. A bobcat kitten. No one spoke. Emily's thoughts collided a la tonfe. A predator. In her kitchen. In a cardboard box. Then, immediately, painfully. Then where is her mother? The vet seemed to read the question on her face. Bobcats live throughout this area, she explained. They are rarely seen, but they were here. If this baby is alone, something likely happened to the mother. A vehicle strike. A trap. Illness. Or displacement from the storm. Sophie covered her mouth. And keeping her? Emily asked, her voice tight. Is that okay? The vet's expression softened, but her words didn't. Keeping native wildlife without permits is illegal, she said. And even when people mean well, it can end very badly, for the animal. Emily felt the weight of the box on her lap in a new way. Healing her their own way, the vet continued, banding her too closely to humans, exposing her to domestic pets, to settings can make her unreliable. Ben swallowed. What happens then? The vet didn't sugarcoat it. Sometimes euthanasia, she said quietly. Because a wild animal that's not afraid of people is at risk everywhere it goes. The word landed hard. Emily looked down at the small body on the table. She thought she was having a kitten. Now she realized she was standing at the edge of a much harder responsibility. The vet slid a card across the counter. You need a licensed wildlife rehabilitate, she said. Y Callejero. But this has to be handled carefully. No photos online. No visitors. No guessing. Emily nodded. Already. We do whatever's right, she said. The vet gave a smile, approving nod. Good, she said. Because doing the right thing here is going to hurt. Emily lifted the box again as they left. The little animal curled inward, eyes still open, watching. Not trusting. Not afraid enough to fight. Just waiting. And for the first time since Milo walked out of the woods with a shadow at his heels, Emily understood the truth clearly. This wasn't a rescue story anymore. It was a test. The rules began the moment they pulled back into the driveway. Not spoken rules. Not written ones. The kind that settle into your chest when you realize one wrong move could erase a life. Emily carried the box inside as if it were made of glass. The little body inside shifted on then stilled again. It had learned quickly that movement attracted attention. That knowledge alone scared her. In the kitchen, the house felt suddenly different. Familiar. And soft. Full of smells and sounds that belonged to humans, not to something born for trees and shadow. The veterinarian's voice echoed in her head. No photos. No visitors. No guessing. Mark set Milo gently in the living room and closed the laundry room door behind them. It was the quietest room in the house, far from foot traffic and noise. A place that could be controlled. We kept her in here, said. Used for now. Emily nodded. Though used for now already felt heavier than it should have. They placed the box on the floor and carefully folded back the towel. The kitten, no, the bobcat, didn't try to escape. She didn't explore. She didn't cry. She stayed exactly where she was. Emily set down a shallow dish of water mixed carefully with electrolyte solution, just as the vet had instructed, and a small amount of warm kitten milk replaced. The smell reached the little animal immediately. Hunger won. She crept forward inch by inch, body low, eyes never leaving Emily's face. When she drank, it wasn't gentle. It was frantic, desperate, like she didn't trust the food to stay. Emily turned her face slightly away. The vet had been clear. Eye contact mattered. Too much cold me abandon. Already, kindness felt dangerous. That night, no one slept well. Every sound from the laundry room pulled Emily awake. A sift of cardboard. A faint rustle. A soft, strange chirp that wasn't a kite a meo. She lay still, staring at the ceiling, listening. She thought about the word illegal. About how thin the line was between help and harm. In the morning, Emily called the number on the card. The wildlife rehabilitate answered on the third ring. Her name was Karen, and her voice was calm in a way that suggested experience earned the hard way. A bobcat kitten. Karen repeated. Thank you for calling. Those 4 words, thank you for calling, made Emily's throat tighten. Karen didn't ask for photos. She asked questions instead. Where was the kitten found? How old is she seem? Was she eating? Was there contact with domestic animals? When Emily mentioned Milo, Karen's tone sharpened slightly. Separation is critical, she said. Domestic cats carry diseases that can be deadly to wildlife, even when they seem healthy. You need strict boundaries. Emily looked at the closed laundry room door. We can do that, she said quickly. Karen paused. There is something else, she added. Bonding. Emily already knew what was coming. Every moment you spend comforting her, Karen said, teaching her humans are safe, increases the risk she won't survive in the wild. I know that sounds cruel, but wild animals raised with affection don't understand boundaries later. Emily swallowed. So, we shouldn't tether her. Only when necessary, Karen replied. Feeding, cleaning, medical care, no cuddling, no talking to her unless you must. I'm no names. That one stung more than Emily expected. No names. Naming creates attachment, Karen said gently. Attachment creates hesitation. And hesitation gets wild animals killed. Emily wrote everything down. Gloves. Minimal handling. Quiet. No photos. No visitors. No names. When she woke up, she sat at the kitchen table for a long time, staring at her notes. She had rescued animals before. Straws. Injured birds. Lost pets. This was different. This was loving something by keeping distance. Mark found her there. She said we can stabilize her here, Emily told him. Temporarily. Until the rehab enclosure is ready. Mark nodded slowly. And then we give her up, Emily said. Saying it out loud had more than she expected. They rearranged the house that day. The laundry room became a controlled space. A heating pad set under the box, away so the kitten could regulate her temperature. A schedule tapped to the wall. A bin of disinfectant wipes by the door. Emily washed her hands constantly. Milo wasn't allowed near the room. I noticed immediately. Sat outside the door that evening, towel wrapped neatly around his paws, ears angled forward. Sniffed at the crack beneath the door and made a low, confused sound. Emily crouched beside him and scratched behind his ears. You did a brave thing, she whispered. But this part isn't yours. Milo flicked an ear, unconvinced. Inside the laundry room, the kitten grew stronger by the day. Her movements changed first. Less bobble, more control. Her eyes tracked motion more precisely. She began to freeze instead of flee. Karen cayed daily. She adjusted feeding plans. Introduced new textures. Eventually, real meat. Emily hated that part. Not because it was cruel, but because it was honest. This animal wasn't meant to be soft. She was meant to hunt. Weeks passed. The kitten grew. Her legs lengthened. Her shoulders broadened. The faint spots on her coat deepened into unmistakable wild patterning. Her tufts appeared like punctuation marks. One afternoon, Ben stopped in the doorway and stared. That's not a cat, I said quietly. Emily nodded. No one argued. Without came danger. Another mentioned she'd seen something cut in the yard the other day. Sophie almost posted a picture on the, called herself used intime. Emily's nerves lived on a constant edge. One mistake. One post. One curious visitor. Karen had been blunt. If authorities get involved and is deemed improperly handled, she said, the outcome can be irreversible. That were the code. Irreversible. Emily watched the bobcat, stronger now, alert, already less tolerant of her presence, and understood the cruel truth. If she loved her too much, she could kill her. And if she loved her too little, she could lose her. This wasn't a rescue. It was a responsibility with teeth. And the hardest part was still coming. The hardest part wasn't the fear. It wasn't the rule stop to the wall or the constant awareness that one wrong decision could undo everything they were trying to protect. The hardest part was learning how to care without leaving fingerprints. Emily had spent her whole life responding to need the same way most people did, by moving closer, by offering warmth, by speaking softly, by reassuring, by staying. Now, every instinct she had was working against her. The bobcat kitten, still numbness, deliberately so, grew stronger each day. Her appetite sharpened. Her movements became fluid, efficient. She no longer bobbled when she walked. She stalked. Emily noticed it during feedings. The kitten no longer rushed toward food. She waited, watched, calculated. When she moved, it was quick and precise, like a spring releasing. Karen said that was good. It means her instincts are intact, she explained over the phone. That's exactly what we want. Emily pressed the phone to her ear and watched from the doorway as the kitten dragged a piece of meat into the corner of the enclosure, turning her back to the room as I ate. Exactly what we want. They spoke less in the house now. Ben learned to tiptoe past the laundry room. Sophie stopped bringing friends over. Mark fixed the cracking hinge on the door so it wouldn't announce movement. Emily became efficient. Feed, clean, observe, leave, no lingering. No eye contact longer than necessary. Some nights, she sat on the kitchen floor just outside the closed door, listening to the fan sounds inside. The rustle of straw, the scrap of clothes, the quiet breathing of a life that depended on her and yet could never belong to her. Karen had explained imprinting carefully. A cat that associates humans with safety will approach them later, she said. And people panic. They call authorities. Or they take matters into their own hands. Emily didn't need the rest spelled out. In rural places, wild animals that got too close to people rarely lived alone. One evening, Milo slipped past Mark when he wasn't looking. Emily heard it before she saw it, the soft thump of paws where they sounded heavy. Her heart stopped. Milo stood just inside the laundry room doorway, frozen mid-est. The bobcat lifted her head instantly. Her body coiled, ears angled forward, eyes sharp. For one suspended moment, two worlds fast the ashoter. Domestic and wild. Familiar and unknowable. Milo stalpaffed. Edinte hiss. Edinte retreat. Stared. The bobcat stared back. Then, slowly, cautiously, she lowered her head slightly. Not submission. Assessment. A teeny chirp escaped her throat. Curious. Questioning. Emily moved. She scooped Milo up without thinking and backed out of the room, closing the door with shaking hands. She sanitized everything. Her hands, the floor, the air itself, it felt like. Nothing happened. And yet everything felt dangerously close to having gone wrong. From that night on, Emily checked the last twice. Weeks passed like this. The kitten grew lean and powerful. Her eyes held less uncertainty now. More distance. She didn't freeze as often when Emily entered. She didn't run either. She watched. Karen inspected the progress in person when the outdoor transitional enclosure was finished. A reinforced space designed to reintroduce the bobcat to the outside world without exposure to humans. This is good, Karen said, testing the fencing. Very good. Emily felt an unexpected swell of pride, and then guilt for feeling it. The transition happened gradually. More time outside, less inside, less human presence, more natural sound, wind, birds, weather. Emily missed her. That thought scared her. Because missing was the summer road that led to wanting. And wanting was the wanting cycle, not a fall. The day Karen called to say the rehabilitation center's mine enclosure was ready, Emily felt it before the words landed. It's time, Karen said gently. Emily thanked her. She went up and stood in the kitchen for a long moment, staring at the wall where the rules still on. No names, no banding, no exceptions. That night, Emily sat on the floor outside the enclosure. She didn't speak. She didn't touch. She used star present, careful not to cross the lines she had spent weeks drawing. Inside, the bobcat passed on then settled. She faced the doorway, eyes steady, unreadable. Emily breathed slowly. You were never meant to stay, she whispered, knowing the kitten wouldn't understand the words. You were meant to live. The next morning, they loaded the carrier. The bobcat resisted, not violently, but with tense refusal. Her body was strong now. Capable. Wild. Milo watched from the hallway, tall low, ears forward. Emily closed the carrier door with a soft click. The sound echoed louder than its old ave. The drive to the rehabilitation center felt longer than the first. When Karen took the carrier, she spoke softly, professionally. She's exactly where she needs to be, she said. Strong, alert, not tame. Emily nodded, unable to trust her voice. As Karen carried the bobcat away, Emily understood the truth that had been forming quietly for weeks. Having something don't always look like holding on. Sometimes it looks like stepping back, and trusting that you didn't know. The house felt wrong the moment they came back without her. Not empty in an obvious way. Not silent. Just misaligned. Like furniture had been moved a few inches off center and no one could quite say why it felt uncomfortable. Emily stood in the laundry room doorway longer than she needed to. The heating pad was gone. The box was gone. The fat animal smell lingered in the air. But even that good fat so on. She told herself this was how it was supposed to be. Still, her body hadn't caught up with the logic yet. For days, she found herself listening for sounds that no longer came. The soft scrap of clothes, the shuffle of straw, the faint movement that told her a life was still there. Milo noticed, too, sat by the back door more than usual, staring out into the yard as if waiting for something to reappear. Sniffed at the ground near the garden and flicked his ears toward the woods. Sometimes, when the wind moved just right, Emily's words she so intense, like a sense the presence she couldn't. Karen sent updates. Circ. Professional. Reassuring. Se sitting well. Showing good response. Maintaining healthy distance from humans. Each message brought relief, and afresh. Emily learned how strange it was to miss something she had worked so hard not to love. Weeks passed. The seasons shifted sadly. The days grew warmer. The goods being the house thickened with green. Life moved forward the way it always did, indifferent to the quiet changes happening inside the one family. Then, one evening, Emily stepped onto the porch to water her plants. The sky was painted in soft purples and golds, the air heavy with the smell of honeysuckle and warm soil. Cicadas buzzed in the distance. She froze. At the edge of the yard, just beyond the garden, something stood perfectly still. Not small, not fragile, a young bobcat, sleek, muscular, confident in the way only wild animals were. Her coat caught the fading light, rich with pattern. Her short tail was unmistakable. Emily's breath caught in her throat. The bobcat didn't move closer. She didn't step fully into the yard. She stood at the boundary, half shadow, half light. Watching. Emily didn't speak. She didn't step forward. She remembered everything Karen had taught her. Distance mattered. Distance was safety. Behind her, a familiar weight appeared at her side. Milo sat down beside Emily, calm and steady, his white fur glowing softly in the evening light. Stared toward the bobcat without fear or aggression. The bobcat's ears flicked. Her gaze shifted briefly to Milo, then back to Emily. For one suspended heartbeat, the world felt impossibly small. The bobcat blinked. One slow blink, a gesture of calm, of acknowledgement. Then she turned. 3 silent steps carried her back into the woods, where branches swallowed her shape and left nothing behind but moving leaves. Emily exhaled, her breath breaking into something like a lavanda sobat de sametime. Mark stepped onto the porch moments later, concern written on his face. "What is it?" he asked. Emily pointed. "There," she said quietly. Or she was. Mark followed her gaze. The woods were empty now. Used trees. Used shadow. But Milo still stared into the distance, ears forward, as if mimicking something important. Karen's final message came weeks later. "She's been released," it read. "Near where she was found. Strong. Wild. Exactly as I should be." Emily closed her eyes and pictured it. The career opening. The first cautious step. The pause. Then movement, free and unclimbed. She understood then what had changed everything. The miracle wasn't that a wild animal had lived briefly in their home. The miracle was that they had learned how to love without talking. Because kindness isn't proven by what you kept. It's proven by what you're willing to give back.